Okay, welcome back to class. So today we're looking at an electric guitar. Last time we restrung and cleaned our acoustic guitar, but now we need to learn how to do it whenever we're using an electric. It's a little different and your headstock might be completely different from mine. This is the standard Fender headstock, and the standard Fender headstock has these little pins that poke through the wood. And the way that we string our strings is going to be different than how we did it on the acoustic. And that's why I want to teach you, so that if you ever have an electric or if you're learning on an electric, you know what to do, generally speaking. A lot of electric guitar systems that kind of mirror this architecture are going to use the same principles and the same tuning mechanism, okay? So this is the first difference that you're going to notice here at the headstock. Now I'm going to take the camera and we're going to talk about the opposite side. Or actually, I'll just twist you around. So on the rear side, you're going to notice that this back plate is different than the acoustic guitar. With the acoustic guitar, we had a bridge that had a piece of wood. But on the electric, we have some metal pieces. Now again, your electric guitar might be different than mine. In this case, the saddle, which is where the bridge and the saddle, this whole tailpiece here, it varies a lot between guitars. But the key is that at some point, the string is going to go through and then get held in place externally. In some cases, like the Stratocaster and some Telecasters, the string actually goes through the back side of the guitar. So you'd see it on the back here. Somewhere there would be some hole. And it's pretty logical. You just figure out which hole corresponds to which position for your string, and then you string it. Now, stringing electric guitars is actually very easy compared to most acoustic guitars. In this case, it just goes straight through a hole here, and it gets held by this piece of metal here, and then it goes the standard length all the way to the nut at the other end, okay? And then we tighten it at the pin here, okay? So those are the structural differences between the electric and acoustic guitar before we get to taking all the strings off and cleaning it. So identify the electric guitar you have and understand where the strings are going to go and understand how the strings are going to come off. They're going to come off the same procedural way as the acoustic. We're going to loosen it and we're going to pull the string off and out. And that's fine. Just be careful that when you're taking your strings off your guitar, that you work in a balanced fashion. If you go all the way across the guitar like this, moving from one end to the other, it can offset the tension being held on the neck. And so just try to be as symmetrical as possible. Maybe work your way in or work your way out. And that will even the slack and keep the guitar from getting yanked too much in one direction and not enough in the other, okay? Not the biggest deal in the world, but it's still smart to be symmetrical when you're working with the guitar, just in case, okay? So with that, I think we're gonna end this first segment, and in the next segment, we're going to actually take the strings off and start talking about how to clean the electric guitar, or at least this Fender Jazzmaster, which is my baby, okay? So right now I'm gonna take my tool that we talked about in the acoustic guitar lesson, and this tool is a winding tool that allows me to quickly rotate these little tuning pegs, and it makes it much more efficient when I'm either stringing or loosening or tightening any of these things. So pick up one of these if you can find it. They're really cheap. It's a piece of plastic, so if you can get a metal one, that's even better, but just make sure you lubricate it. Okay, and the other good thing about this is that it has a little clipping tool built in. Not the sharpest thing in the world, but it does help in cleaning up the job afterward. Okay, so let's just quickly take all the strings off the guitar. So I'm going to work symmetrically, so I'll start with the high E string, and then I'm going to move to the low E string. So I'm going to work like this until I get to the very middle, all right? Now, of course, don't bother doing any of this unless you have a pack of strings ready. So in my case, I have electric guitar strings. These are 11 to 49. What that means is the heaviest to lightest gauge, or sorry, lightest to heaviest gauge, right? You have 0.11 diameter here versus 0.49, okay? So this is your thickest string, this is your thinnest string, and you can buy really anything you want for the electric guitar. it's a pretty safe bet to get 11s. So whenever you go to a store, you can ask, can I get some electric guitar strings in 11s? They'll just give you custom light. Now, these are a little different wound. They're called nickel wound, but in the end, it doesn't really matter all that much. You're gonna go through some strings fast if you play a lot, and they're not that expensive. So you should use as many different kinds as you can. Okay, so that's that. Let's get to it. I think I'll do a fast forward section for this bit, and we'll just quickly get this guitar unstrung, okay? So get this in position or use your hand, and remember that when we're loosening, we go clockwise direction, okay? And I'm running into the issue of hitting the floor, so you can use an object to lift the guitar a little bit so that you can get some real estate and start to loosen it. And I'm striking it with my thumb. That string I'm loosening, I'm striking that to make sure that I'm loosening it. Get it nice and loose. Okay, then I'm going to move to the E string. These are old strings. I mean, I think I've had these strings on the guitar for over a year. Pretty crazy. And sometimes that will happen, right? So my string actually popped out of this position, and so for that reason, wear glasses or wear goggles if you think that's going to happen to you. Or just look the other way while you're doing this, right? Nice. Okay, so now we have all of this loosened up. We can pull the strings out and just remove the strings entirely. Okay, welcome back. So we are finalizing the video with the last part, which is restringing the guitar. So get your strings ready, and I'm going to show you how to restring the high E string on this standard Fender style headstock. Okay, so I'm just going to show you one, and you can do the rest. Again, make sure that your hands are nice and clean so there's no lemon oil still on them, and make sure that you've wiped off the excess oil from the guitar before you do this, okay? And we're going to focus on this pin right here. So this is the one that holds the high E string. So make sure you follow the color guide on the back of your string pack. And so that should look like, let's see, high E. So in other words, the E next to the B string, right? So that's going to be the silver one. So let me find silver. I can put away the other ones. Okay, so I found silver. It's this one here. It's attached to the B string, so I'm going to unwind it and get the silver one free. Set the purple one to the side. Okay, so this is my silver. It's corresponding to the high E. I'm going to take the the end that doesn't have the ring, and that's going to go on this side, right? And this with the ring is going to go on the opposite end of the guitar. Now, when you push the string through the tail piece, okay, so this piece right here, you're just making sure that it corresponds to where the high E goes. So you can look from the side and see a little hole in there, and the string will go through there, with the circle end being on the back side of the guitar and the side that doesn't have a little ring going toward the headstock, okay? So this little bit here is going to go toward the headstock. This part with the ring is going to lock here, okay? So once you've got that, we're going to spin this back around. Okay. And now we want it to go into this last peg here, okay? Now, when you restring your guitar, you should have three wraps around the post, this post here. With the Jazzmaster headstock, and maybe with other Fender headstocks, and maybe even some other electric guitars, you put the tip of the string inside the peg, so inside this post, okay? So it goes into it. Once it goes inside, we're going to crank it and tighten it in place, okay? So it's actually quite simple. We just have to make sure that all of the wraps are going downward, okay? So remember that the wraps need to go downward, not upward. Okay, so grab your tool. And the good thing about this high E string is that it's set at a height that allows you to do a lot of wraps. In other words, the length of this string is pretty much good enough. For every string past the E string, you're going to go two post lengths. So these strings may or may not come cut for you. So unlike the acoustic guitar, you're actually going to trim them ahead of time. And so to illustrate what I mean, let's say I was doing the G string, okay? So if I were stringing this G string, I would trim the string at this post place. So it's not one but two posts length, and then I would cut that off. And so the remainder, this bit between these fingers and this finger, that is the length of the string that will actually get wrapped around the post here. So again, with the E string, it's already kind of set for you. This length is a little bit long. We could trim it a little. But basically, we want to go 1, 2 posts length. Obviously, when you go for the B string, you're going to add a fictional second post length. And then when you do your G string, you can just cut it right where the post is. Okay? So don't forget to trim your string before you string the guitar. Okay? So now I'm going to take note of this little locking mechanism that's built into the headstock. That keeps this string from rising too much. And so that's just going to go underneath. And then again, we're going to put this tip into the post. So it goes directly into it. The next step is we want to make sure that we're going against the counterclockwise motion. So when we have the tuner thing on the machine, We're going to turn it counterclockwise to tighten. Again, raising it is helpful. Grab my lemon oil and raise it, okay? And so, with a non-oily hand, I'm going to grab the string, okay? And we're going to get our machine ready, and we're going to start turning it counterclockwise to see which direction it's going to turn. Now we have the string inside the post, so we're simply going to turn it so that when we're holding the string inside and to a side, that it's turning against our resistance, okay? It should work out just fine if you push it straight in, and then you push it to one side, okay? Now I'm just going to look at this and see if the length is right. It seems like the length might be a little bit long, just from peering at it. I think it's a little bit on the long side, but that might be okay. Having more winds isn't necessarily a bad thing. As long as they fit, it's okay, I think. Okay, so I'm just going to demonstrate. So we have this, and I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure once it's all the way in to the side, and then I'm going to start cranking it counterclockwise. And you will find pretty quickly that as you hold it down, it's kind of magical. It kind of works on its own. And your only job after this is to make sure that each wind is going down, okay? So you're holding the string down as low as possible while you wind. And the more confidently you do this, the more quickly you do this, the better off it's going to be, okay? Because you don't want to let go. If you let go with your left hand, if you let go with your thumb and your index, you're gonna lose the string, right? It's gonna pop out, okay? So you're just keeping it as low as possible, let the winds go downward, and it's gonna start to tighten on its own. When it starts tightening on its own, you can kind of start moving it around because you want to get the string, excuse me, oh! Okay. So you're holding it down and all the winds are going downward. That's perfect. We're still going counterclockwise, but now we need to make sure that the string is actually going underneath this little knocking mechanism. So this mechanism, the E string goes underneath this bottom wing. The B string will go underneath the top wing. Make sure that the string is sitting in the saddle here. And then make sure over here on the other side, at the body of the guitar end, okay, so down there at the end, making sure that the string is sitting here, inside the correct slot, okay? And then we're going to return here. Okay, and we're just still applying a little bit of pressure to the string and running this counterclockwise, making sure from the side that it's all going in a downward direction, okay?